On RPM tonight, the formula for fun comes from the fastest form of racing on these shores. Formula Ireland is the new premier class that has captured the imagination of drivers and fans alike. Formula Ireland's first visit to Kyrgyzstan allows these 2-litre machines to really stretch their legs. These 175 brake horsepower racers combine Formula 1 looks with just the right amount of technical sophistication. Reigning Formula Europa champion John O'Hara starts third.
I'm delighted with third, considering all the dramas we've had last week, and it's been a busy week. And I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting the top three, but I'm really happy with it now.
You've always got a chance when you're on the front row, you know. So I'll be looking to make a good start, hopefully get in the lead and have a go and see what happens from there.
After the disappointment in qualifying in Mondello, this is nice to come back because Damien has worked hard, and qualifying is where the pace of the car really comes through. We went up 1 by 4/10, and the lads really deserve their work really hard.
That pole position is Robbie Coleman, and he's happy to be up there because this track is a mixture of long, fast straights and some tight corners. Now beside him, Paul Salmon, his first front row, and the man to lose out obviously is Peter Walsh. We're waiting for the lights, and a good start from Coleman, but a super start there from the outside the front row from Paul Salmon. First corner here is very, very tight as they come in to break, Declan.
There's our in-car man Peter Walsh, far further back than we expected, and as the cars approach the first turn, Colonial, it looks as if Coleman is going to make it to the front. Going through that turn, Peter Walsh and our other in-car man just outside him, Peter Labat, far further back, and he kicks a wheel over the curb, going through Colonial, and Peter Walsh is able to take advantage of that as they approach Fisherman's.
Peter knows now what it is to be down there fighting. You can see way up front there that both Paul Salmon and Robbie Coleman especially, they've got a jump on them, but a good tussle there, but it's a long speed train that's going through there, and somebody's after losing a back wing. We'll see it again. You can just see spinning out of the way there. That was a close one.
Well, Peter Walsh and Peter Labat just about managing to avoid Eugene Heary's huge spin. That was behind Barry Wall, running in fourth place, made a mistake at the chicane, and he's lost his nose cone as a result. You see that he's still ahead of our cameraman and John O'Hara, and mistake there by Barry Wall. Eugene Heary's going to have to work his way up from the back.
Robbie driving there very, very smooth indeed. You can see the two lads getting into the fastest part of the circuit here. It takes you all your time to hang on the outside there. Looking down the inside, Peter does it, but with that nose gone, unfortunately he's going to lose his downforce. Robbie at the moment driving nice and smooth, but Paul Salmon begin to chuck it about a bit. He might lose out there.
Robbie Coleman from Paul Salmon stretching their advantage over third place man John O'Hara, who's now ahead of Peter Walsh still just about, and Barry Waugh, who's dropping back, lacking that front wing downforce. Emmett O'Brien just behind him in the black car and about to pounce as Peter Walsh kicks up the dust on the exit of chicane there.
Peter, we're back on board again. You can see just in that slipstream all the wings. The compromise is if you put on too much wing, you'll lose the speed down the straight. If you don't put enough on, you lose out in these tight hairpins. Again, looking at that outside line, trying to come back across the gearbox, doesn't make it this time. In for a toe down that quick straight, but still, meanwhile, Coleman up the front, pulling that ever so slightly edge every lap.
Twice a winner in the USF 2000 series, Peter Walsh is tucked on inside the gearbox of John O'Hara, going round the outside into Colonial. Nothing he can do there, but John O'Hara, of course, our reigning Formula Europa champion, a wily competitor, knows his way round this Kyrgyzstan circuit well, and he's doing a good job to fend off the Corkman at the moment.
He'll be absolutely delighted after a disaster at Mondello Park, and that's all I could say. Engine went, gearbox went, and now he's back out and he's delighted, sitting there, and it pulls a few car lengths through the chicane, but Peter very quick on the exit.
Meanwhile up front, Robbie Coleman stretching his advantage, doing a tremendous job, just back from England, won the first round of this Formula Ireland series. Behind him, Paul Salmon doing a great job, and Peter Walsh looks as if he's made a better exit from the hairpin than John O'Hara. The two of them side by side, practically rubbing wheels as they go along the straight. John O'Hara does not want to cede this final podium position, and he's making Peter Walsh go the long way.
And a long way it'll be, but I think Peter has that inside line if he's late enough for the brakes, and he nips through. Now John O'Hara, he knows the mistake he made. He went in very close on the chicane, or on the hairpin I should say, and let Peter come across the back from him. So Peter now in the lead, but the front two there, it's still Coleman from Salmon. That's Peter Labat as they make the way up to this. I love this chicane at Kirkson. It's a flip in and a flip out, and you've got to be careful not to overdo it on the way out, but you can make a car length or two here.
There's our cameraman Peter Labat making the best exit he can from the chicane, and he's chasing this man, Peter Walsh, who's leading a 3-car train. Peter Walsh, John O'Hara, Emmett O'Brien, and Peter Labat trying to latch onto that battle, and Emmett O'Brien now has John O'Hara in his sights. Emmett O'Brien back from racing Formula Ford Z-Tech in England, very experienced Irish kart racer. And meanwhile up front, another man back from England, Robbie Coleman from Cork, already a winner in Formula Ireland and looking well on his way here for victory in round 2.
Happiest man out there has to be Peter Walsh. Started way back on the grid and he's now on the podium. Keep your fingers crossed. But there's Salmon going through. The nice story about him is that the 3 sponsors own the car. Burley Accountants, then you've Gilmore Tiles, and I think it's Crean Mosaics, and they own the car, and he's got to run it, and it's a way in for racing, and he's doing well for them in second at the moment.
Moving ahead, and that's Emmett O'Brien ducking left and right in his attempt to stay ahead of John O'Hara. Was there contact there? Really a frenetic battle here for 4th position on track, as Peter Labat looks as if he's just about clinging on to that battle, just about closing in on it with his car, which of course he won in a draw this year. 2 of the drivers out here, Eugene Heary and Peter Labat, won the use of these fantastic Van Diemen Formula Ireland cars for a year in a draw of the first 10 drivers to sign up.
Well, if Peter Walsh is the happiest man out there, that's him. I think John O'Hara will be the unhappiest. He seems to be dropping back, and he's dropping back into the clutches. He's moving away from the podium, and there's a good chance he's going to actually lose that 4th place. Now, whether the car, they haven't really had time to set it up. When you don't have an engine, Emmett looking down that inside, a brave move, but a long way around the outside for John O'Hara. He knows he's got to keep on that right-hand side if he's got to defend, and all the time he's defending, as you said, Declan, Peter's making inroads on him, so there'll be 3 of them fighting for that place. Keep your fingers crossed, John.
Peter Walsh is stretched ahead. That is your 4th, 5th and 6th place men. John O'Hara, Emmett O'Brien and Peter Labat. Meanwhile up front, of course, Robbie Coleman from Paul Salmon has a decent advantage. As you say, John O'Hara had very little time to prepare this car. They were up all night before the first round and then spent most of the week trying to repair it just so it was race-worthy for this weekend. He's making the most, scoring as many points as he can, and right now he's not thinking about preparation, he's thinking about defence, desperately trying to keep Emmett O'Brien behind. Emmett goes down the outside into the hairpin. He'll try and make a slingshot exit and get tucked in underneath John O'Hara's gearbox as they go along the pit straight.
Just didn't quite get it right, went out a little too far. If he was in there, did I say it right? No, he wasn't close enough, but he got out wide, made it a big slingshot. Now John has raced here, he's obviously under pressure. The car isn't performing as well as Emmett's, but then he's making the best of it, he's keeping him off, and he's had to fight every time at the hairpin. That's Coleman, and just look at the lead he has over Paul Salmon at the moment. But this man has tested well here, Declan, so obviously he's made the best use, but it's going to be a long, hard season.
In car, there's your 3rd place man, Peter Walsh, and he will not be happy in 3rd place. This man has championship ambitions. He's come back from the States in an attempt to resurrect his career, and really qualifying 7th, not good for him. Paul Salmon, meanwhile, very impressive. We perhaps didn't expect him to be this far up this regularly. 3rd at the first round. And there's Peter Walsh chasing down Salmon as best he can. Emmett O'Brien, meanwhile, still up underneath John O'Hara's gearbox with Peter Labat in close attention. A tremendous battle there for 4th place.
Yeah, you said, Declan, we would expect it from Robbie Coleman, we expect it from Peter Walsh, but this young lad, Paul Salmon, obviously knows a thing or two about driving. John O'Hara, we know he's a champion, under pressure with the car underperforming, but he's still holding that place. This will be a sear. This could end in tears, really, depending on how nice or how gentlemanly John O'Hara is in closing the door. Through there, they come out Great shot there, really at the work into the chicane now. He's got to get right out of here because Emmett, a little mistake there, is giving him that break because he doesn't want him all over him going into the hairpin.
Very tough to follow through the chicane. The front wing loses downforce, and all about carrying speed through that chicane down that fast straight. Emmett looks as if he's a little bit closer as they exit the hairpin, going up through pit start finish straight. He's alongside John O'Hara side by side. If he can maintain this advantage through Debtors, they're flat out through this right-hander at 130 miles an hour, two abreast. That is not easy, I tell you, but it looks as if Emmett O'Brien has held on as they move into Colonial. He's got the inside line, he's got the advantage, he's made that fourth place his own.
Yeah, that all happened again at the hairpin. That is the place that John O'Hara needed to get that length of car in, but that's history now. He's lost that place. Meanwhile, Coleman up over the curve, not using too much on the way out in the JG Kelly Supplies car, faithful sponsor of his dad, and now along with him. Meanwhile, Watchy giving it everything he knows down that back straight. Sound there not great, but a big wave as he gets his second win in a row. So the score at the moment, keeping alive with the World Cup, 2-0 to Coleman.
Robbie Coleman, 2 wins in a row in the inaugural Formula Ireland series. He's the victor from Paul Salmon, who just fended off Peter Walsh for second. Meanwhile, further back, Emmett O'Brien just edges John O'Hara for fourth, with Peter Lala in close attendance in 6th place. Robbie Coleman stretches his early lead in the series to 10 points from Walsh and Salmon.
The race was won really in qualifying today. We didn't get our setup right. We had problems with a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to make excuses, but we just, the bottom line, we weren't quick enough.
I'm happy enough. Second on the grid, second at the end of the day. I made a good start, slightly better than Robbie, but because of the staggered grid, I wasn't able to capitalise on it.
It looks quite straightforward on the track there, but there's an awful lot goes into it behind the scenes that nobody sees. Once I got off the line there, Paul showed me the nose okay, but into the first corner I was able to stay on the inside, which is extremely important, and pretty much just settled in then.
To Mondello Park, where the Formula Ireland drivers are donning gumboots for the 4th round of the new Premier Racing category. Pre-season favourite John O'Hara won the last round in near flood conditions, so this week's rain doesn't faze the Kildare driver.
I was delighted last weekend to get the first win. The Wallen Motor Company car was really good, and everyone did a really good job in the team. So I'm pretty confident for today. Looking at the weather, we had no problems last weekend, so hopefully it'll be similar today. We've proved to be quick in the wet, especially the first round when we got the pole. So we're not bothered really which conditions it is. Just as long as we get the right setup in the car, we should be okay.
And on pole position it is indeed John O'Hara. And I'm not sure about this double-spaced grid. I think it's a bit unfair with the small power they have here, but not to worry, that's the way they want it. Coleman is second, Walsh third, then Peter Laba, because it gives a large advantage to the man on pole position when you're stretching way down to the 5th row. You can see at the moment there will be plenty of plumes of smoke, a red light missing there off the grid, maybe it's gone out, a shortage of bulbs in Cork. A great start from O'Hara, but look at Coleman coming down that 8th side line, he's pepped him.
Well, O'Hara wasn't able to make the most of that Formula 1 style staggered grid, and he's second now behind Robbie Coleman. Coleman winner of the first 2 rounds, and John O'Hara winner of the 3rd round. This 4th round is all about these 2 drivers and these 2 white cars, and as they work all the way up towards turn 3, Robbie Coleman has the advantage.
Well, the best man there was Emmett O'Brien. I think Peter Walsh as well was asleep. Look at O'Brien up into that 3rd place. Peter Walsh just tippy-toeing the bag again. Kieran O'Carroll very slippy here on the exit. Cars get a little light. Oh, we've got someone off there. That's number 5.
There's Eugene Hearing. No luck for him in the car, the scholarship car this season. As we see Peter Walsh round the outside of Emmett O'Brien, a tremendous manoeuvre in these tippy-toe wet conditions. It couldn't be more difficult out there, and Emmett O'Brien would definitely not have been expecting that move. Tremendous work by Peter Walsh.
You can just see on the track there on the right-hand side that light grey. That's the little dryish bit, and Peter, in fairness to him, out around the outside. Now they are on wet, so the wets work best in the wet. wet conditions, but it's still very light on your right foot. And these two at the front seem to have pulled a little bit, but Labad there and Kieran O'Carroll really begin to shake down. That grey stuff is the drier line. Watch out now for Coleman. See can he eke out an advantage and see if Walsh can do anything about John O'Hara.
Walsh now in third place, and these are the three drivers that we expected to dominate in this year's Formula Ireland Championship. We've got Robbie Coleman out front, followed by John O'Hara with third place, Peter Walsh. There's Mark Smith, one of the karters up from 100cc karting. He was Formula A champion last year, but he's a little bit further back up front. Robbie Coleman still has the advantage over John O'Hara, but it looks as if John is closing in as Paul Salmon and Mark Smith engage in their personal battle for fifth place.
Salmon not having a great day at the races this time, but at the moment Robbie is having a super day, because I think he's pulled about 3 car lengths on O'Hara. Now it's a long race. O'Brien going wide. Will Labag get through? No, he had his chance there, but you can see that the conditions, right hand side very wet, left hand side beginning to dry. And the tail out, the slightest movement like that and they're all over you.
Yeah, Mark Smith, he's really getting the hang of these Formula Ireland cars, his first season in it, but it looks as if Barry Wall was able to take advantage of Paul Salmon's slow exit, and he was able to. And meanwhile, up front, it looks as if John O'Hara is getting on terms with Robbie Coleman. The man from Cork now has the man from Kildare in his sights, and another man from Cork is starting to get the bit between his teeth and get his sights set on John O'Hara. So now it looks as if we're going to have a top 3 dice for the lead here of this fourth round of the Formula Ireland Championship. And Robbie Coleman, it looked as if he'd had a real advantage on the first lap, but John O'Hara, he has the pace in practice. He was more than half a second clear of the field, and he won't be letting Robbie away lightly this afternoon.
Yeah, although that dry line is appearing, and that's purely from the wet turns, there is that light drizzle, and O'Hara at the moment maybe just gave him a little breathing space to give him a bit of confidence that won't be there. O'Hara taking that slightly wider line will turn in, and he makes it pay, because getting it all out of shape there was Coleman. He's up beside him, they're banging wheels, but the man who could gain out of all this, the third place man, Peter Walsh, watching, having good thing inside. 2 wheels on the grass. Do the all 3 come out? They do indeed, but no change. Still Coleman from O'Hara, but Walsh on a flyer.
No quarter given, unexpected. Robbie Coleman's mistake has allowed John O'Hara and now Peter Walsh to close up, and looked as if there was a bit of contact between O'Hara and Coleman there a couple of corners ago, and there'll be no love lost between these two as they chase for this important victory.
The two up front be watching each other, so Walsh could get a little run at 1 or 2 of them, but again, we've seen it before, you can't really bang bodyworks on these cars. It's okay to tap the odd wheel and touch the bodywork and you're in trouble, you're going to lose your downforce. But you notice there Peter doing that magic outside line, a real quick one to get a run. Will we have a run up the inside of Dunlop? He's pulled a car length.
And John O'Hara looks to go down the outside into Dunlop corner. They touch wheels, and Robbie Coleman's managed to hold off. More banging there by Peter Walsh as he gets ahead of John O'Hara and into second position, and it was a real do or die effort by John O'Hara, and it didn't quite come off on Robbie Coleman, and as a result he touched with Robbie Coleman, and Peter Walsh was able to take advantage. Now John O'Hara has lost the cover of his suspension. That won't affect the performance of his car as Peter Walsh on the exit of turn, just working into turn 2, he tries it around the outside. It's difficult there, it's almost impossible, but he's made it stick. A tremendous performance there by Peter Walsh, and he's ahead into first place.
He made that look easy. I'm not sure that Robbie didn't just put a wheel on the grass. He's come down a little quick there, get a little understeer, but you know, he just made it look so easy to get it down on the outside for the very sharp left-hander, but he's made it stick, got away with the understeer, can't even play on it. But these two behind us, as you said, Declan, a little bit of body work there is not going to make any difference. John O'Hara, he's got to recompose himself, have a look at back. And O'Brien spinning out all on his own. It looked as if he was tapped, but I think just a little bit too loud on the pedal.
On the power a bit early there by Emmett O'Brien. He was really anxious to get off the corner as quick as he could with Barry Wall right behind him, and it looks as if he's going to be able to resume the action, and he comes back out onto track, and whoops, Mark Smith really won't be too pleased about that, but they both come away unscathed. And meanwhile, as we move ahead, Peter Walsh has really stretched his advantage, and it just shows Robbie Coleman really didn't quite have the pace in these wet, drying conditions, and John O'Hara just is frantic to get by at this stage, really struggling, and knows he has the pace and just can't do anything about Robbie Coleman, who's defending resolutely his lead in the championship and his tenure in second place in this fourth round of the championship.
You can see there the minute Coleman moved to that inside line to block the line, the plume of spray coming. Move off the line, it's still a wet race, but look at the gap he's pulled. Of course, he's on his own, no one fighting with him. O'Hara ready to pounce, and behind this we still have that battle between Peter Labat and Emmett Smith for the next place up, and we'll see how that develops. But still, O'Hara in that third place, wide line again. Will Coleman make a mistake? No, he doesn't. To perfection through, little waggle there. Maybe the tap that he got from John has affected the handling, but there's not really much between the two cars. I think if anybody is the better car at the moment, handling wise, I think John has.
Yes, I think John O'Hara has the pace if he could get by, but that's half of motor racing, is find a way past. As you say, there's Peter Laban right behind him. Is Kieran O'Carroll. Great performance by Kieran O'Carroll. Very little experience in car racing, a former pro car champion. He had a podium here last week in the wet and relishing the wet conditions like no other. And there's another man who really likes it in the wet, John O'Hara. The cowling of his suspension missing, as we said, that in itself won't cause a problem. It may mean that the nose has drooped slightly, but really the wing's not a big factor in these wet conditions, and mostly it's about how you handle it, how you drive it, how much confidence you've got. And John certainly, through that long left-hander, he's been able to close up on Robbie virtually every corner. There's Kieran O'Carroll getting it all wrong. No fairy tale result this week as they goes down into Tarzan corner. The back's locked up and the back came round. Nothing he can do about that. But it's Peter Walsh, a tremendous success in this fourth round. That's 3 winners in 4 rounds. Peter Walsh, the winner of our race.
The winner indeed by a country mile, but who will be second? Coleman closing that door for the inside. I don't think O'Hara can do it, but it'll be very close for second place and a long way back to third.
A long way back to fourth position, Peter Labat. He cruises home in his Bernard Dolan racing machine. A strong result there for the Clare-based Dubliner, with Emmett O'Brien in 5th place, and just behind him, Mark Smith.
Before this weekend we said we had to win, and there was pressure this weekend, but thankfully we did it, so we're happy. I didn't make a good start, unfortunately, probably the worst of my life, but I got back up to third, and then I just hung on to Robbie and John, and I was just hoping that they might make a mistake, but then all of a sudden I think the track just dried up a small bit and it suited the car perfectly. I saw Robbie, I was going to try and go for the inside, but he blocked, and next thing all of a sudden I just came up to the outside and just got a bit of speed, momentum, and I don't know, if I thought about the move I probably wouldn't have done it, but I had to go for some move, so I saw the move and I saw the opportunity, so I went for it, and it paid off, so yeah, I'm happy.
I think in the circumstances it's not a bad result, because in qualifying we had a slight brake problem and hindered us, and then on the race I got a very good start, got up into first, and I was trying to pull away, it was quite comfortable, and then second lap, third lap our problems started to set in again, so the lads caught me up. It was very early days. I'm going to take every single race that comes and just pretty much keep pushing.
Just messed it up myself going into the first corner and then Robbie through, and I just tried everything I can to get by him, and we had a bit of contact then halfway through the race, and that allowed Peter to catch up, and then it was more contact than he got by, so it was a tough race. I'm a little bit disappointed to be third, but not too bad. We've got a few more points for the championship and it's a long way to go yet.
The Coleman family have been used to gathering the silverware over the years, but there must have been great celebrations in Mill Street when Robbie came home with the biggest prize in Irish Formula racing, the Formula Ireland Trophy. Today, however, as in the RT2000s, it's all about the runner-up spot.
Well, the pressure's on really. It's very close between myself and Peter, but I came out here trying to end the year on a high, and well, we've started off in style anyway, with pole position, so I'm pretty confident for the race.
Peter Walsh and Paul Salmon are the ones to beat.
5th place, Paul. Not really happy. I know by your face.
No, not really. Compared to where we've been throughout the season, 5th place is a little bit down, but it's a long race, 18 laps. I'm sure we can make it up.
It would have been nice maybe to displace one of them, maybe Peter, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. I have to be happy with being best of the rest, I think, maybe this time.
And it is John O'Hara on that pole position. Beside him, Robbie Coleman with the best start from O'Hara. Just look at it, 2 car lengths. Robbie Coleman slotting in there and Peter Walsh slotting into 3rd place. But this is going to be a long, long race, and what a start from Paul Salmon up the inside.
Yeah, Salmon there starting at 5th, but straight by Mark Smith and Barry Waugh, wanting that 4th place. He's been best of the rest for most of the year. He wants to catch these first 3 guys and have a go with them before the year's out, Brian.
Wasn't happy with his 5th place on the grid, but it was a good start. Now, I've seen him make worse starts than that. But that fourth place is all important, because if anybody falls over each other up front, we're on board there with Peter Labat, trying a long way around the outside. Brave man.
Yeah, Emmett O'Connell there managing to defend that turn 3. Very hard to go around the outside, but now O'Hara in the Walden car, Brian. He knows what he's got to do. He's got the new champion behind him. He's got to get the head down. He needs to get a gap here.
Yeah, second place is very important in all these championships, because there's a good prize for that as well. But at the moment, O'Hara getting the head down. Robbie hasn't given up. Walsh haven't given up. But you can see that Smith is under a little bit of pressure from Waugh and Kieran O'Carroll, so they may drop back. But the first 3 should be getting their heads down. But Salmon isn't letting them away.
No, Salmon going very well, as we said, that fourth white car, but he's going to have to close that gap. These 3 guys have made a break all year. They're going to do it again. Peter Walsh there, another karting graduate, the first ever cadet karting champion in Ireland many years ago. Made his way up through karts, superbly successful. Perhaps a little bit disappointing this year. Hasn't really challenged those guys, but he had a super win in the wet. Can he do it again today, Brian?
Could happen. Weather is too good today. I wouldn't count on the rain, but look at O'Hara. He's got a couple of car lengths, but we've seen this happen before with Robbie Coleman. Takes a lap or 2 to settle down. Remember, he is the champion. He doesn't really have to go for it, but he still like to win. He doesn't want to be second, regardless of the championship.
Heading up towards Dunlop Corner now. This is what we've seen before. O'Hara, Coleman, Walsh and a gap back. The battle then for best of the rest. Who's it going to be today?
Well, Salmon's still in that fourth place, but Smith under pressure there with the red car of Barry Waugh and the Eddie Rockets car. He's really tucked in. Now, if he can slingshot himself by, I think he's slightly quicker than Smith, but all the time the laps go through and he sees Paul Salmon go up the road. He's under pressure. There we go. Peter Labat once again into Hewlett Packard, having a look at the inside.
Carrying a little bit too much speed in there in the back end of the car. Let's go. These Dunlop tyres again, maybe a little bit overheated. A 3-point turn. He'll be really disappointed with this now. Gets the power back on just as here he arrives, but a little bit too much power there, just a little bit anxious. Spins that car right around. The locals not impressed.
Not impressed. It takes one to know one. Anyway, meanwhile up front, John O'Hara in the Walton car. He's pulled another half car length, but Peter Walsh, a man who's usually on the attack, probably thinking in terms it's 18 laps, let's relax it down. But there is the bat at the moment. That's the bat that we'll concentrate on. Forget these 3. Well, I don't mean forget them. Look in the background. The green tar there is Smith. Wow, follow him in his tracks. And Kieran O'Carroll, that is, in the yellow car, Leo.
Yeah, the McLaughlin car there. Great to see a yellow car out there. We've got too many white cars on this grid, Brian, but it's great to see that car going very well. Went well again earlier in the year in the wet. But Mark Smith, look at this. Barry Waugh and the Eddie Rockets car. Be wishing he ate a few less chicken tenders there during the week. Down the outside.
Putting a bit of weight on, you can see that O'Carroll just beginning to slide, but these 3 lads, you know them from karting, 3 ex-karters and one of them still karting.
Yeah, champion karters there. Mark Smith still keeping his hand in, still keeping the guys honest in the GK Karting Championship, and the reigning champion. Formula Ireland wasn't suiting him earlier in the year, but he got the head down, did a lot of testing with Ron Cumming, and now you're seeing it come good. And watch the racecraft of this guy. The car mightn't be perfect today, but he's able to hold these 2 other guys back. As you said, 3 experienced karters going at each other.
Waugh, I think, has the quicker car. I think he's been held up because he could turn in there. He has the handling set up, no step out, and all this time O'Carroll beginning to come in on the back of them and look in the background. Salmon looks in the mirror and thinks, great, keep it busy lads, keep away from me. I need this 4th place. Not only do I need the 4th place, I need to get up in the 3rd, so he's looking to watch. Waugh, again, doing everything he knows, but Smith doing everything right.
Yeah, Smith hugging the inside line as they go into the bridge there, almost turfing the car into Dunlop Corner, more rally style than single-seater style, man. Maybe a little bit of understeer on that green and white car.
Well, if he keeps doing that, his tyres may get a little bit of hot and he might get a little bit. He's no understeer there. It's turning in lovely. Now we've got a 4-car train.
That's Emmett O'Brien, Robbie Coleman's teammate, another driver progressing as the year went on, and now tacking onto the back of this 3-car battle. And Smith now has got the head down, a little bit of understeer, but he still has managed to pull that gap.
Peter Walsh there in that Kart World car, holding that 3rd place. In fact, dropping back. He's got Salmon all over the tail. And would Peter Walsh have a problem? One wouldn't know. It's not often you see him drop down. He's actually heading for the pits. Peter Walsh heading for the pits, and Salmon inherits that 3rd place. Now he's got to get his head down, because remember, Smith will see this and Waugh will see it. There's a podium at the chance.
Yeah, Salmon would have preferred Walsh to stay out there. He wanted a scalp of one of these top 3 guys, but he'd be happy enough with the podium. Again, we saw the understeer. Back on board now with Peter Labat. Down into the S's, turns the car left, Sport in Ireland corner, right into the outside again. The back tyre shot after that first spin. He hadn't got a hope there, Brian.
Yeah, spinning the wheel just shows you how much damage you can do. These 2 lads are really at it.
That's Eugene Heary diving down the inside of Brendan Murphy at the rear of the field. 2 guys learning this formula. Heary straight up from Formula V, a huge step, but going very well this year. And Brendan Murphy, another junior karter, back to the front. Car number 1, John O'Hara, pulling away from Robbie Coleman.
Number 1 is on that car, not because of this year, because John is the champion champion from last year. We're back in the battle now for 4th place. Remember, Paul Salmon is up into that 3rd place, and Barry Waugh is just not going to let young Smith away. Head down, much quicker coming out of there, but he has it in the middle of the road for the S's, and it's a long way round the outside.
Yeah, Smith's got a load of racecraft from karting, Brian. Apart from that understeer, if he hadn't got that today, he'd be going an awful lot quicker, but he's not going to be easy to pass. Barry Waugh knows it. Waugh there, very smooth, very confident, hanging on to the back, maybe waiting for a mistake. And again, watch out for this understeer. There you go, just throws the car into Dunlop corner, Brian.
And what happens, you notice then Waugh backs off because he thinks he's going to get himself into a big tangle and lose it, but he's coming out on one slingshot, like he's after pulling about 2 car lengths, but into the braking early, through Evening Herald corner there. Who will be second? Look at the gap he's pulled on Robbie. Perfect balance in that car, no understeer, no oversteer, but O'Hara, he's making it look easy today.
Yeah, we're not sure if it's Bernard Dolan or Luke O'Hara that works on these cars. Both give the credit to the other one, but as you said, that lead car handling perfectly, just drifting through that turn too.
And that was Robbie Coleman there, and as we said, he's the champion. He doesn't have to do anything, but he still will have a run. Remember Paul Salmon holding that 3rd place? Peter Walsh was in the 3rd place. Something happened, so it's not over till all the fat ladies sing. Coleman coming up the hill, dabbing the brakes, turning it in. No wild swings there like young Smith. No understeer, perfectly balanced car. But look at the gap, O'Hara make it look easy. And Salmon still in the fray, but dropping back slightly. So the battle is still for that 4th place.
Yeah, unusual to see Robbie Coleman perhaps just settling for it. He has the championship in the bag. He won the Leinster Trophy this year. He's had a great season, but he cannot match John O'Hara today. This is a great showing from John O'Hara.
You have to give it to the boys. The boys have been on television all year because they feature, but the real battle, this battle for 4th place, the 2 young kids straight out of karting, Waugh and Smith. Will it end in tears? Who could it be? Paul Salmon, let's not take it away from him. All the way from Mayo, he travels up and down, so he's the furthest traveller in this Formula Ireland. But look at Waugh, not sure that he's sitting high enough in the car because he just can't see where he's going because Smith will not let him around the outside. That's our leader, O'Hara. Back with this battle, look at Waugh.
And Waugh really getting the head down, moving from left to right now, trying to increase the pressure on this young driver in front of him. But Mark Smith has won races, he's won titles, and he's well used to Mondello Park. Watch him as they come round turn 3 now and head up towards the left corner. Beautifully composed, a little bit to the inside, but then back to the outside as he comes onto the brakes. He's not really defending too much. And there you go again, has to throw the car in. Waugh's car a lot better through Dunlop corner.
Good shot there. You saw them coming through the S that the car was sitting on. That's O'Hara out there, a little bit of tail on as he goes through there. You can see beautifully balanced and a nice lead over Coleman. Salmon holding that 3rd place and Waugh still at it. As Leo said, watch the front of this car, a little bit of understeer. Waugh buries the right foot. This is where he can get him again. Has to back off in case you lose the nose, you lose the downforce. Now down here, Waugh has this beautiful. He backs off coming into the corner and gets power of it. Back with John O'Hara. He's on his last lap, coming up the hill to Dunlop. He'll know 2nd place in the championship is his. Coleman doesn't mind. He's got it won, and Paul Salmon will be absolutely delighted with a 3rd place. 2 hands in the air for O'Hara. Coleman's 2nd place, the champion. A lock up for the punters in the stand. Who'll be 4th?
And again, huge understeer from Mark Smith there, but he's done it all right. He's used his racecraft. He didn't have the pace today, but he's going to take that 4th place. And Barry Waugh, an impressive drive to 5th, Brian.
The race went really well. Just made a good start and just got a good bit of a lead on Robbie after the first lap, and then really he didn't hassle me after that. The car was really good. Bernard Dolan, done a really good job on the car, and I'm really happy.
But that 2nd place in the championship is very important for you for the prize involved.
Yeah, that's right. And it's nice to finish 2nd because it's a Formula 3 test up for grabs. So we'll see. It'd be nice to get a run in an F3 car and see how we go.
Yesterday we won the race by 6 seconds, so the tyres were kind of old and dead, so it started to squirm around a lot there towards the end of the race. He made a small mistake in the last lap, but I wasn't quite close enough to capitalise on it.
And Robbie's championship prize is a Formula 3000 test, no less.